So you've successfully completed your first week of our summer term, and I want to go over what week 2 is going to look like for you. So we're here at our main page, and I'm going to click over to content, and it's going to bring us up here in week 2 with our Engage. So I always have these little instructions for you so that you get a sense of what we're talking about. In week 2, we're going to just go over the historic overview of special education and the federal basis for laws and the statutes. You've got 4 things that you're going to submit this week. Advanced Organizer 1, the laws in special education. I made a note that you can work with a partner if you want to. You don't have to, but the key on that is going to be that you both need to put your names on a paper, and you both are going to have to submit it. One of you can't submit it for both of you. And then you've got your Advanced Organizer 2 that's due on Sunday, and then a formative assessment, which looks just like the formative assessment that you took in week 1. So let's go over a couple of things. Because I know some folks have still ordered their textbooks, I've included chapters 1 and chapter 2 as PDF documents. I cannot include any more chapters due to copyright issues. So if you haven't ordered your text, please go ahead and order those. Here I've got other things I want you to look at. So I'm just going to click on a couple of these links so that you see what they are. This is 7 important cases, and it's just information about some of these laws that I would like you to read over this Rowley. We're going to go a lot more in depth with Rowley and Rachel H. and some of these other laws in the class as we move forward, but I want to make sure that you have a sense of what those are moving into it. Start looking at what those are. I've got a quick little web page for you on the history of IDEA. This comes from the U.S. Department of Education. If you click on that, it's going to take you to a link. This is a huge, 20-page document, and I would encourage you to kind of scan through this. This is going to be helpful information for you, especially as you move into professional positions as intervention specialists, understanding where the laws came from. That's how we really get a good understanding of where the laws need to go and how we need to do this, how we need to enforce the law and encourage the law with our students. So I would encourage you to look through that as well. Let's go back. And then we've got just a quick little timeline. I think that you'll appreciate this when we look at some of these litigation, some of the litigation in the laws, that it gives you a sense of where we are time-wise. So that will be helpful for you if you have the opportunity to print that so that you can look at it while you're reading and make notes. You'll want to. We'll talk about a lot of those cases, but not necessarily all of them. But you'll want to do that. And then here, chapters 1 and 2, I've included a video lecture for you. It's about 17 minutes. It goes over both of the chapters. And that's just me pulling out some of the key points that I think you need to understand for chapters 1 and chapter 2. So that's your content that I want you to engage in with this week. So please do that. The next thing I want to look at with you is assess, how we're going to do assessments. So again, there's always this little grading note on how I do the grading. Advanced Organizer 1 is due Wednesday, and I break these up because they can be they're pretty detailed, and I don't want people to be slammed at the end of the week doing them both, because you won't be able to do them adequately that way. So Advanced Organizer 1, the laws in SED, and Advanced Organizer 2. If you haven't had a chance to look at the Advanced Organizers, I want to show you what it looks like and what the expectations are. If you click on this link for Summarize, there's an explanation of how you do the summaries and how you do that without plagiarizing, because you do need to cite other sources, but I want to make sure that you cite them appropriately. So for each of these prompts, you need to describe in your own words how you'd respond to this prompt, and then give text support using APA citation. Now, a couple of folks have commented that they're really unsure about APA citation. So in the syllabus, I've got that link to the Purdue OWL website that helps you go through all of APA. But I'm not looking for the number of spaces between periods and parentheses. What I'm looking for is that you can appropriately use an in-text citation. And when I say APA citation, I really just mean that APA in-text citation style, which looks like you're writing your own ideas. You're not using quotations, direct quotations, but you're rephrasing what the authors in these articles and in your textbook have said, and then putting it into your own words. And then at the end of what you've said, you're parenthetically marking, this was Murdoch, 2016, parentheses, so that it's clear where the ideas came from, that they're your ideas or they're the author's ideas, and either you're saying this is what I agree with, or this is my idea and this author supports me on this. So that's really what I'm looking for. And then of course having that bibliography at the end of your paper. So you'll want to do that for each of those. Now, here is the part that sometimes that is a little bit of both the looking it up and the practical application. So you're going to look up these different cases. They're in your text. You're going to give a brief description here. Don't just pull it from the text, but put it in your own words. Like, what was Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas about? Basically, it's a segregation lawsuit. So you would say the brief description is separate isn't, it does separate isn't equal. You're going to talk about that it's racial segregation and what this is. The impact or the results seen in your district. Now, if you're currently working in a district in any capacity, it doesn't matter if you're a general ed teacher, if you're a para, whatever, then talk about what that looks like in your classroom. How does Brown versus Board of Education affect your class today? And I would encourage you strongly to not just write, we don't have segregated classrooms, because it's not entirely true. If you go down into, say, DPS, you're going to see a lot of segregation. So how's that really impacting the current? If you're not in a district, then you can talk about either the district that you live in or the district that you most recently attended. So whenever it was that you were last in high school, or you can cite kind of some current events. So if you live in Beaver Creek, but you work somewhere else, then you're going to say, this is what this looks like in Beaver Creek. If you're not sure because you work in a different field, then go to the ODE website and look up the stats on the different schools. Look and see who's in those school districts. You can find that on the district report cards. You can find how many students with disabilities, what are the ethnicities present, what does it look like, how many students are in special education. You can find all that information on the ODE. So take some time to really consider what's the impact of this law or this litigation in your current setting, whether it's the setting where you work as an educational professional or the setting where you live and maybe you hope to work. Same thing for Hobson versus Hansen, and then Park versus the Commonwealth. So be really clear about those. If you're not sure, you're just going to have to kind of like look and see what you can find, especially with things like Park and things like that. And you'll do that for each of those laws. So I would encourage you to take time to do those carefully. Again, here is this act, Rehabilitation Act. Put it in your own words. And what's the role of it today? So what does this mean, and what does that look like for us today? And you're going to want to kind of dig deep into that. So that's what that's going to look like. Each one of these advanced organizers, these graphic organizers, will look like this for you each week. And you'll do usually one in the middle of the week and one at the end of the week. So I would encourage you to take special care with those as well. Let's go back down here. This law is in SCD. Again, if you want to use the class list and email somebody to work with together on, you can. You don't have to. It's just that you're certainly allowed to. Same thing, purpose. You're going to go through these laws together. If you do work on them together, actually work on them together. Don't just divide and conquer and say like, well, I'll do IDEA if you do Section 504, because that completely defeats the purpose of working together and understanding it, because then you'll only understand one law and you'll just be copying what somebody else wrote for the other. So when I say work together, I really do mean work together, like discuss these together so that you can say, make sure that you can say to your partner, this is what I think the purpose of 504 is. What do you think it is? Make sure that we both understand it. That's really what I mean by doing partner work. But if you just split it up and divide it and conquer it, then you've defeated the purpose, and you also don't understand what the other person did. So this says in small group, but this should just say either in your partnership or individually, what are the similarities and differences? What do you think? Answer these incomplete sentences, and again, always support your answers. So if you say, why has this happened, then you want to cite the text, cite the articles that you're reading to support your opinion. And then we've got Advanced Organizer 2. It looks very similar to Advanced Organizer 1, but different content because it's over Chapter 2. And then your formative assessment. So that's week 2, so that you'll be setting up. One thing, I do want to go ahead and look at week 3 with you, because you'll have the first of 3 of your teaching demonstrations that you will do. So for week 3, let's see, I'll have to go out of this. For week 3, you're going to do your teaching demo. And I'll open this in just shortly for you so that you have that. But if you look on the course calendar, you've got your teaching demos expert for a day. So when you click on that, it's just going to take you to the discussion board. You find your name and you're going to post, your teaching demo that you've done there. But let's go back and look really quickly at what it is that you're doing. I'm actually just going to go to the course calendar. And I'm going to click the link from there. So I don't have all of the modules open for you, but everything that we do is actually already linked in the course calendar, so you can see it here. I will be opening those. I'm just trying to roll those out slowly so that it's not overwhelming. All right, so you've got your teaching demo. So everyone is going to be doing their teaching demo on Reza this week. So, and if you don't know what Reza is, you should Google that. It's specific to Ohio. And here is the rubric I want to show you that you're going to be using. So exceeds expectations, meets, approaches insufficient. This is the same type of rubric that we've used before. Here's the point breakdown. You can see in this 3, 2.5, 2, and 1.5, it just goes across and what it is that I'm looking for. So you're going to be doing your independent research on Reza, and you're going to be creating a teaching demonstration, no more than 10 minutes. Don't make it super long, but about 10 minutes, where you're teaching us about the resident educator program here in Ohio. So you can go to the Ohio, all the resources, Ohio Department of Education, all of that. But what the goal is that you're looking for is you want a clear introduction, coherent, it relates to your topic. The content is your big points. You'll see that this is maximum worth 3, and the rest of these things are worth like 1 and 2 for a maximum, but your content is 5. In-depth content, explaining what it is exactly that we're doing, what is Reza, so that you know exactly what you're going to have to do when you graduate and go to become a teacher. You'll have to go through this Reza program. Text elements, just make sure that, just like if you're using slides, if you're using Prezi, if you're using PowerPoint, whatever you're using, just make sure that if you've got text that we can read the fonts, that it makes sense, for using bolds and things like that, and that you've got background colors that make it easy for us to read. You don't want to have like yellow text, on like a light green background or something. We won't be able to read that. So it's just kind of general information there. The layout, make sure that you use this space so that it's not a whole lot of text and a tiny little picture. You've got citations, so go ahead and link it directly to the ODE if that's where you're pulling it. And that you're using images, just like when your teachers teach you and when you teach your students, you're going to have images to help convey the intent or the meaning. So use images and make sure that they're relevant to what it is that you're trying to teach us. The text needs to be your text. So, you'll go to the websites, the ODE and things like that, and you're going to read about it, and you need to put it into your own words. Don't copy and paste. And that, because that's plagiarism, but just make sure that you've got original text and that you run a spell check and things like that. And then you're going to do a screencast. I did include how to do a screencast in the how do I do it section. There's a video on how to do that. So you can use lots of different things. If you've got a Mac, I use QuickTime is what I use most often, but if you have a PC or even if you have a Mac, you can use the other easy one is Screencast-O-Matic. It's free and for anything that's under 15 minutes, so I would recommend that. And then your narration. So go ahead and rehearse it before you get started, and make sure that you have a script so that you can follow along, or that you can follow along with that while you're reading. And just make sure that we can understand you, that you use correct grammar, things like that. And you're going to do this 3 times over the course of this summer term. So the first one of those is due in week 3. So I want to just go ahead and make you aware of that. That's coming up. So if you are finishing up things early, and let's say it's week 1 right now, and you're working on week 2, and then in week 2 you're finishing up, so you want to go ahead and look to that teaching demo, because that's going to be due on Wednesday at the very middle of the week. Okay, so I want to make sure that you're aware of that, and that's our week 2 and a little bit of a preview of week 3. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. If you want to have a synchronous meeting, we can set up our virtual classroom, which is in our pilot shell, so that we can meet and go over any of this content or information that we need to. Okay, thanks. Have a great one.